DMV Download, the new daily podcast from WTOP News, is out now. Hosts Megan Clorty and Luke Garrett get the story behind the story.
Every weekday afternoon, Megan and I will go beyond the headlines with WTOP reporters and sources to bring you more on the biggest local stories impacting you, our fellow Washingtonians.
The DMV Download podcast is available now on all major podcast platforms. Subscribe today so you don't miss an episode. The DMV Download podcast is presented by Steamfitters Local 602.
Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. Happy Star Wars Day for fans who have created an annual holiday out of May the 4th, as in May the 4th be with you. I spoke briefly with Star Wars creator George Lucas on the red carpet of the Kennedy Center Honors in 2015.
Well, I think it's got mythical roots that are on psychological motifs that relate to everybody and have for thousands of years. We figured it was going to fail. Everything I did around it was, how was I going to continue to work on it if the first one fails?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's good. I had a great run, and I'm very happy about it, and I'm proud of the work that I did, and, this is a great ending to it. Still going, but now I build museums and do other things. It becomes a new experience. I mean, it's not like you had to work your way through it, and you know where all the mistakes are, and you know everything. You just get to watch the movie and enjoy it. So it's much more fun. Well, I don't know. The biggest thing that's happening is it's becoming more democratic. It's becoming more like literature, which is anybody can do it. The economic barrier that used to be there when I started is gone. And the gatekeepers, which are the people that distribute the movies, they're gone. So now it's very easy to make a movie and get it seen by 1 million people.
Mr. Lucas, your Ark of the Covenant's at the National Geographic, and your Lucasfilm curators were having a little rumor. They said that there's a rumor that either the Yoda puppet or the Star Wars script is inside. Can you confirm nor deny?
I have no idea.
Did you and Mr. Spielberg really make a bet about Close Encounters in Star Wars, which would do better?
We did. Well, not which would do better, we just traded points.
Oh, so you're still cleaning up on that one.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
I also broke down the iconic music of Star Wars with conductor Emile Decoux, who performed it live with the National Symphony Orchestra at Wolf Trap last summer.
Star Wars. Talk about what makes that John Williams score so amazing.
Oh, there's almost no words because it's a set alone piece. He had written a lot of really great scores before that. And I've been watching these movies for like 6 weeks, every day or twice a day, just to get ready for the performances. And, from 1977, it's hard to imagine a world without John Williams' score of Star Wars. It's like it's always existed because it's become so iconic. And just, it starts with the Fox fanfare, which we play live. And then you see the famous scrolling text going into the horizon. And I'm watching a clock, and on this millisecond, this gigantic B-flat major chord just bursts out. And just with this one chord, if you didn't know where you were, that's by John Williams. The sound, how it's scored, the weight of it. And you see the sign of the word Star Wars burst on the screen at the exact same time as this entire orchestra erupts. It's absolutely thrilling. I just get chills just when I'm studying it, because there's something that's so powerful about this music. Then you get that great theme, which is one of the great themes in movie history that he won his Academy Award for, that he also uses made like Wagnerian compositional devices, because when he and Lucas made this film, they didn't know it was going to be a hit. It could have been a one-off. It could have been, I don't know, a flop. But for some reason, it became one of the most powerful film franchises in film history. But just the care that he writes, just like Wagner's Ring Cycle, taking all these leitmotifs or themes that you identify with different characters and the heroic themes and how they come back. It's awe-inspiring, really, because when I study these film scores, especially great ones like Star Wars, and there aren't very many like Star Wars, I study it like I would study a Beethoven symphony. And so as you go through it all, you analyze every harmony in the entire thing, which takes a long time because it's a big score and orchestration and form. And it has all of the same elements that you would have in a Wagner opera. And then you also notice things that you can't hear when the movie's actually playing. And these people, orchestrators, John Williams, took such care to develop this in the most sophisticated way. And that's why I'm so excited about having this live, because this will be the first time, even if you know this movie like the back of your hand, that you will hear things you've never heard before. And the movie will just jump off the screen all the more because it's John Williams.
Love it. Yeah, I love how you're talking about that, how it just blasts on the screen with that text crawling.
Oh my God, the audiences will scream as soon as they hear that chord and they see the words on this massive screen.
Right.
Because, it's the past 10 years or so, people are so used to seeing movies on their phone or on, I don't know, on a laptop, and to be able to see it, or even if you have the best smart television at home, to see it on a screen that big. Mm-hmm. I grew up in Southern California, so I remember in the 60s with my parents, I'd go to drive-in movie theaters, and which was fun. I think I saw most all the old movies on a drive-in screen, which are huge. The sound system was terrible, but the screen was great. Right. So it's kind of like the best of a drive-in movie theater, except for you're sitting on the lawn at Wolf Trap with one of the great orchestras of the world.
Absolutely. And ironically, drive-ins made a bit of a comeback during the pandemic, but imagine it with a live orchestra. It's going to be really something else.
And the funny thing too, because I was noticing just spending all the time with these scores, and I walked by a movie theater and I was seeing what they were playing, and I think maybe because I spent my whole life in music, but I thought, the one thing I've missed during this whole pandemic is going to a movie, going to a theater. Same. Because I see a lot of films in planes because I'm always flying, but I just love the magic of going to a theater and the theater gets dark. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they have those old-fashioned curtains open in front of the screen and the movie starts. Right. And it's just nothing more magical to me than that.
Preaching to the choir, man. I do want to get into the more of the actual live orchestra, like in the pandemic and just all that stuff. But doubling back to Star Wars really quick, because you mentioned that opening theme that blasts on the screen, but also give me a little bit on the Imperial March, because that is just as I mean, most movies would kill to have that song, that theme as their villain's theme, but Star Wars has like multiple famous themes.
Oh, it does, and it's funny to see the progression of the films, because I mean, he's written one just recently, from 1977 until now, and how he evolved in writing Star Wars. And so actually Star Wars, the 1977 movie, is kind of like a template of how he would pick from for the later films. Empire Strikes Back has the Imperial March. And so it's interesting to see how he composes for Darth Vader. Because Darth Vader has kind of almost like a Baroque tune that comes back and has like a little trill in a minor key and kind of sinister. But then when you have Empire Strikes Back and you have, Darth Vader's theme, full formed, is thrilling. But it's interesting because you don't hear it in the first film, and of course there's no Yoda in the first film, so there's no Yoda's theme. But how they just sort of interconnect, and he'll sometimes superimpose them both on the same music, depending on what's happening on the screen. But I've never seen a craftier score, and he also will reference Prokofiev. You'll hear a little bit of Stravinsky, Korngold also. It'll come from maybe two bars, and then you go to the sort of like Rite of Spring sounding music, kind of pounding away with the soldiers marching through. Little bit of Bernard Herrmann here and there, maybe three notes from Psycho I recognize. I thought that's really great. It's sort of this homage along the way.
What's the instrumentation? I guess it's mostly violins when Luke's staring off at the double sun or double planets.
Or yeah. It's I think it's strings. It's very high strings and English horn, so it looks kind of wistful. But that's a very beautiful moment.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, we could talk about it all day. Thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it, and hopefully, it's always been sort of a tradition to talk to you every time these concerts come through, but we haven't been able to for a while. So I've missed talking to you, but now maybe this is this is the kickoff to many more to come, hopefully.
Absolutely.
Stay tuned for a deeper dive into John Williams' iconic music, but first, here's a message from a fellow WTOP podcast.
DMV Download, the new daily podcast from WTOP News, is out now. Hosts Megan Clorty and Luke Garrett get the story behind the story.
Every weekday afternoon noon, Megan and I will go beyond the headlines with WTOP reporters and sources to bring you more on the biggest local stories impacting you, our fellow Washingtonians.
The DMV Download podcast is available now on all major podcast platforms. Subscribe today so you don't miss an episode. The DMV Download podcast is presented by Steamfitters Local 602.
Welcome back to Beyond the Fame for another chat with conductor Emile Decoux, who led an NSO tribute to John Williams at Wolf Trap in 2015.
Thanks for having me.
Now, you might recognize the name and the voice because we talked to you a couple weeks back as you conducted live orchestral accompaniment to Back to the Future.
That's right. It was really exciting. It's the 30th anniversary of Back to the Future. That opened our season at Wolf Trap for this summer. And this Saturday will be the end of our season, which we close with the great film music of John Williams.
Awesome. Before I know there's a million famous themes that he did.
Oh my goodness.
We'll go down on one by one in a minute, but just generally first, I mean, what made John Williams so spectacular? And not past tense, he's still going. And what is it about his talent?
It's something about the music and the film and the story. And with so many films, you can remember, whatever classic film you love, and just love the film and love the characters, love the story. But with John Williams, the music is so integral to the story. If you think about the end of E.T., if you watched it without the sound, it would be a totally different film. So I think all the films that we're doing, people will know and love. And you remember it either from childhood or even more recent films. But you can just hear the music and you not only remember the film, but you feel how you felt when you saw the film maybe for the first time.
And it brings you back to that
moment. And it's
as a kid.
very personal. It's almost like folk music. Everybody knows all of this music so well. You can just kind of whistle it from start to end.
Now, as you go through all the different on stage, as you go through the different pieces of music, will there be clips accompanying it on screen, or how is that going to work?
No, it's just the music itself. Okay. I will be introducing the numbers, and there's a lot of eclectic types of musics and a lot of music actually the orchestra's never played before. So it's a bigger mix than we've done in the past. And we have a special surprise at the end for our Star Wars, but we'll talk about that maybe in a bit.
Yeah. Let's go. Let's kind of go through the playlist here so people know exactly what they're in for here. And just, man, all these are just, you can't smile not looking at these titles. Raiders of the Lost Ark. All right, 1981 Steven Spielberg classic. Absolutely,
and it's how we're starting our concert. We've done it several times. I've conducted it with the orchestra at the Capitol before, and it's actually started our rehearsal this morning. Raiders. I thought 10 o'clock in the morning. This is the best way to wake up. But it's quintessential John Williams, and there's something about him and how he writes a march rhythm. And years ago, I think it was 2003, there was a film festival at the Kennedy Center, and John Williams was our guest conductor for the entire week. And you could just tell, Leonard Slatkin, our music director then, said so many composers are identifiable with just a melody or two bars of music. And if you remember how the beginning of Raiders starts, just with one note and a certain rhythm, and you know exactly what that piece is and who it's by.
Yeah, that Raiders March, and even like the love theme in there. That whole movie
beautiful.
It's just
beautiful.
Or in the mystery when they have the Ark. And
Absolutely.
the miracle of the Ark.
The orchestra plays it so well. It's also so incredibly well written for orchestra. And there's certain types of composers that any orchestra, and especially our orchestra, because we've had an association with John Williams and his music for a while, that they just absolutely love this music and respect it as much as any music you'd play in any concert in the world.
It's not just some popcorn mainstream movie theme. It's taken seriously, almost like a classical composer.
Absolutely, and there's hardly anybody in film music or in pop's music that could equal that type of respect and love from seasoned professionals.
Absolutely. All right, moving down the playlist.
Yes.
So after Raiders, you'll go to a more recent Spielberg flick, Lincoln.
Lincoln, yes, which is a beautiful score and very different. Also marks the 150th anniversary of the end of the war and the death of Abraham Lincoln. And I saw this movie when it first came out because I love history and I love Spielberg. And I was late, and so I missed the opening of the film. I've since have seen it probably 50 times on my laptop. And I was listening. I thought, who wrote this music? I couldn't think. It sounds like Copland. It sounds very Americana, maybe some folk music or even Stephen Foster in parts. And I waited to the end credits. I thought, it's John Williams.
Of course.
I didn't guess because he can morph into so many different styles of writing, and I thought it must be so difficult to write music for the most iconic figure in American history. But again, John Williams does it perfectly and brilliantly. And we have two sections. One's called "Getting Out the Vote," which is kind of a fiddling tune, which starts with our solo violinist and then tosses around this fiddling music. And then the next section's for strings alone, called House Divided, which is absolutely exquisite. It's like a glorious, inspired hymn to Lincoln.
All right, and then sticking with the Spielberg theme, because
Yes.
Williams was probably, his favorite composer. He was like the Bernard Herrmann to Hitchcock.
Absolutely.
Jurassic Park is next up.
Yeah, because I just saw the Jurassic World, the most recent one, and they use it was written by Michael Giacchino, who wrote Star Trek 2009, which we just also played, and they do use some of the themes from the original Jurassic Park, and so this is about a 7-minute suite that covers all the different types of characters and scary stuff, and sort of the beautiful overarching melody that he wrote, the theme of Jurassic Park.
Yeah, a lot of people, there's kind of two big ones. There's kind of that Welcome Jurassic Park, which is the rousing, and then there's the slower one, the piano.
Yeah, the thing in the middle, and then it goes back to the sort of rousing march with the very high trumpets. It's a really, if you're a trumpet player, this is a hard concert. Because there's a lot of high trumpet writing from beginning to end.
They'll put them to the test.
Oh, they love it, though.
Yeah, I mean, and there's even some scary elements in there, which kind of harkens to your next one.
Yes.
Jaws.
Jaws, yeah. We rehearsed this, and it is so funny because it starts with just a rumble. So you have like a piano and a bass drum and a very low harp and just like this rumbly, with no pitch, this rumbly thing. And then you get those notes. Cellos and basses, one note and then two. And the funny thing is, you know who this is. You know what it is just by hearing two notes.
Yeah.
You don't even have to hear the the third note. It's like the half-step note has become as famous in American culture as the squeaky violins in the Hitchcock shower scene in Psycho.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can still go to the beach today and have little kids who, some of them maybe not even seen the movie, still humming that at the beach.
And it's very, it's funny. We rehearse in the morning at the Kennedy Center, and there's very little that will crack an orchestra up at 10:15 in the morning. And we're playing this, and everybody just started laughing. So I thought that's a good sign.
It's so great.
It still means something. It's the film's 40 years old. So that's
40th anniversary.
That's an old shark.
Absolutely, and still terrifying. The phobia is still there.
Yeah, exactly. It's still scary. Still bites.
I think of all of the themes that we're going down the list here. I mean, I feel like that's the one, if you remove it from the movie, it's just totally different.
Yeah.
That saved many moments when the shark wasn't working, right?
That's true. And it was one of his first big hits also, because it was 40 years ago. It's a while.
It's incredible. After Jaws came out, the big follow-up movie was Close Encounters of the Third Kind. That's the next one you'll be playing.
Yeah, and that actually has a real music link because it's the theme that you hear partway through played in the winds and on bells, which is how they finally communicate with these aliens. But again, you have that sort of magical theme that connects, that sort of cracks the code, as it were. But again, he is the most melodic composer, I think, of anyone that I've conducted since, other than maybe Tchaikovsky, because it is really hard to have one composer sustain an entire evening. Yeah. Even in classical music, maybe a Beethoven, Tchaikovsky, Gershwin, and John Williams. Yeah. And that's pretty much it. Well, Mozart, but you can count on maybe one hand, and it's because his amazing melodic gift, which you hear all throughout Close Encounters.
Totally. I mean, Jaws is he gets so much out of those two notes. In Close Encounters, it's that 5 notes, right?
Exactly.
Bum, 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 bum.
Yeah.
They even do it on the little kid plays it on the xylophone. Remember?
Yeah, it's cute.
Yeah,
it's cute. I thought
amazing.
it's really great that they gave him such license to be an integral part of the story instead of just having him write music after the film's already done.
Absolutely. Now, kind of shifting gears from that sci-fi flick now to a Christmas classic, Home Alone.
Home Alone, which the NSO is going to perform this coming season around Thanksgiving time with the complete film. And we have 2 choruses, because we'll have a chorus for this concert coming up on Saturday. And so we have 2 Christmas choruses. And I kind of like doing Christmas music out of season, because by the time you get to Christmas, you're shopping, you hear Sleigh Ride and Johnny Mathis from like early October on. You just don't really hear Christmas music. I always listen to Christmas music out of season.
Before,
So we have
Christmas in August.
Yeah, so we have his 2 Christmas choruses with orchestra to sort of bring back Home Alone.
Somewhere in My Memory, right?
Yes.
That's the one?
Yes.
You guys will know it the second you hear it. It's a childhood favorite.
Yeah, you might not know it, and you might not even realize John Williams wrote it or that there's singing in it, but there is.
That was with Chris Columbus, and so that kind of set up their later pairing in Harry Potter, which we'll get to in a minute. But after that, on your playlist, you got Catch Me If You Can.
Yes, which is really cool. It's another piece the orchestra has not played before, so it's our first time. And it's, again, a totally different sound. If you think of Raiders, you think of Lincoln. And then you get Catch Me If You Can, which sounds like very cool Mancini's 60s jazz, which is on purpose of where the film was set.
Right.
And Actually, John Williams, when he studied at the Juilliard School of Music and made money as a jazz pianist. So it's kind of going back to his early roots of childhood. And features our guest saxophonist from the U.S. Army Band, Paul Taylor, in an extremely cool cat sax solo. So we had a lot of fun with that. It's only maybe about two and a half minutes long. It's a perfect little gem of a piece of cool 60s jazz.
That's so cool. I'm starting to kind of see how you guys ordered these a little, because Catch Me If You Can had Leo, and now we move into Titanic.
Oh,
You're
that's
doing
right.
a special tribute. This isn't a John Williams. This
Right.
is a tribute to the late James Horner, but you've included it in here. Explain
We
why.
have, James Horner passed away last month, and everyone loves his music, and his music is very close to my heart. I love so much of what he wrote. We have performed his music, of course, with the Kennedy Center and at Wolf Trap, and our dear friend at the NSO, Marvin Hamlish, most recently conducted My Heart Will Go On as a solo piece. In 2006, we played the end credits to Star Trek The Wrath of Khan with Leonard Nimoy saying this is the famous monologue from offstage before he came on stage for the second part. So I love his music. It's a way of remembering him and thanking him for all the countless hours that he has given to us of beautiful music. So we've made a special arrangement for our orchestra and chorus of My Heart Will Go On from Titanic.
And man, it's got to be cool to follow in Marvin Hamlish's footsteps.
Conducting
that.
That's impossible, but it's because he was
amazing.
He was a one of a kind. He really was. And when he passed away, the mold was never to be made again, because he really harkened back to that great golden era of live performance. And everything he did, nothing was scripted and nothing was canned. He would come on stage, he would gauge the audience, and he would make a tailor-made show just for whoever came there. And he was equally charming and funny and natural backstage as he was on. So what you saw as the public Marvin Hamlish was just him, and we miss him very much. But
lost two Titans with Hamlish and now James Horner.
Absolutely.
And so it'll be a nice tribute hearing My Heart Will Go On. And obviously Titanic has millions and millions of fans. They will love that.
Yes.
And I promise, even if you're out there rolling your eyes, you didn't like the Celine Dion or whatever, the instrumental version will give you goosebumps.
That's right.
Guaranteed.
Well, it does, and with a chorus, I think it'll be that much more impressive.
Yeah, absolutely.
So whether you like Celine Dion, that's right. She did a great job in the film, I thought.
I thought so too, but there's some Titanic haters. But get out there, and I guarantee you, the strings will give you goosebumps.
They
and then
will.
before the intermission, you close out with
E.T.
the one and only E.T.
Flying Music. That's one of my absolute favorite films and soundtracks.
Yeah.
And we're playing. This is it's called Flying Music, but it's actually the end of the film. It's what John Williams calls the final reel, which is another piece that he did at the Kennedy Center in 2003. And he did it with the film, which there's no film for us, but just the music. And I still remember I was assisting at the time, and the orchestra left, and they were going to do a check of the film to make sure the film was working properly. And so they showed the very end where Elliot gets on the bicycle to escape the police, and E.T.'s on the bike with him, and then it takes off. It lands to the very end of the movie. And I was watching. I grew up in Los Angeles, so I remember the San Fernando Valley. It looks just like when I was a kid.
The development room, the
tract house. It looks exactly the way where my parents live. And I was watching it without the music, and I thought, this is really, it's a good film, but it looks like a good TV film.
Right.
And then that evening, we have it with the music, and it was a very fancy crowd. It was a gala, and all these beautiful people in suits and gowns and everything, and everybody is absolutely crying. Everyone's in tears at the end, but the difference was because the music was there.
Yeah.
And the music gives that scene, as it does so many scenes in John Williams films,
talking about the final scene?
The final scene.
I'll
that
be
gives,
right here. Yeah.
Ouch. Yeah, it gives the film a heart. And when you listen to the music,
I got chills when you said that. I'm picturing it. I got chills.
But you listen to the music, and it brings it back. And something exceptional about that film and in film history is that John Williams had written the music that we're going to play, and he couldn't line it up with the film. And it just, whatever he did, trying to speed up, slow down, it wouldn't line up the way he wanted it to line up. And so Spielberg said, don't worry, just record the music, and I'll cut the film around the music, which has never happened in Hollywood. It's always the other way around. Yeah. But I think that's why the movie is such a great film and why it's a classic, because in this case, the music came first. It's a great story, of course, but the music is the soul of the film.
Absolutely. And so that'll take you into intermission. You go out, have a bathroom break, get some food, refreshments.
Great food,
and then
drink, wine.
Then you come back in, and the second half kicks off with the Cowboys Overture.
The Cowboys Overture, which is from a film that he wrote with John Wayne. And you don't think of John Williams think of him being in outer space or
Right.
or something kind of fantastical. But this is a real, honest, old-fashioned Western.
Right.
And again, you listen to this, it sounds like those old Magnificent Seven scores or
Elmer
Big Country,
Bernstein,
from the 50s. And it's another
Is
side
there
of
any Ennio Morricone? Or
No,
is that
no.
a different,
That's
so there's
different.
no spaghetti
That's
western.
more spaghetti. This is
Okay.
just more
Classic Hollywood.
ribs and baked beans.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but it's a terrific piece, and it's a piece again by John Williams. So know it's him because it has a distinctive voice. But I'm sure most people have not heard that before. And I tried with this to have a nice mixture of familiar pieces that people do know and kind of surprises that you might be hearing for the first time.
Well, that'll be a pleasant surprise. And then you followed up with one that everyone, especially younger viewers, will know: Harry Potter.
Harry Potter, and we have a suite from Harry Potter. And it's another film that I heard without knowing who wrote it, and started watching it, and I thought it sounds quirky. It sounds like Prokofiev, because he wants it to be magical because of all the stories of wizardry and witches and this and that, and
Almost like a nursery quality, like a little, what do you call it? Like a baby mobile sound almost.
No, it's
to it.
true because it starts with the celeste, which is a very tinkly keyboard instrument that you'd recognize from the Nutcracker, Sugar Plum Fairy, or Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Yeah, of course.
And it starts with the celeste playing just by herself, this little simple kind of almost like a kid tune, like you said, in a minor key. And the strings come up sort of like making the sound of rustling leaves in the wind. And then we get all the famous tunes that you recognize. After that, we have a chorus from The Prisoner of Azkaban, Double Trouble, which is a feature for our chorus and orchestra.
A lot of people hold up Azkaban as the highlight of the whole thing because it was Alfonso Cuarón directing that
was
one.
a brilliant film.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just amazingly directed. And it's another thing the orchestra's not played before, so it'll be a first at Wolf Trap for us.
That'll be nice. And then afterwards, the big enchilada, Star Wars.
It is. And we have, we have all the famous tunes from Star Wars. It's about 20 minutes, and it's just, people have had entire evenings of just Star Wars.
Of course.
But it's just, we rehearsed in order when we put the program together, and after all these famous pieces, and you get to that, and it's like the aha moment of the concert. It's like, this is it. This is one of the greatest pieces of music ever written.
Do you have a personal favorite in the Star Wars? I mean, is it the main theme? Is it the Imperial March?
I like the Imperial March.
Yeah.
I don't know why. There's just something about it because I've done it a lot, and it's just. It's at one point you get that repeated ostinato rhythm, and then he goes up a half step, and then you get the whole thing again. There's just, I don't know how one person could write such a wealth of variety of music. And you think of even, I don't know, any regular classical composer that you could think of, Brahms or Tchaikovsky, they basically wrote in their one Tchaikovsky style all the way through, or Gershwin or Bernstein.
Right.
And John Williams has this amazing gift where he can just morph into whatever the movie needs. And you can still hear and sense his personality, but amazingly changeable composer, more than anyone else I can think. He just can do practically anything. And Star Wars, that's the climax of the evening. And then we have, I don't know, I think we have about 60 or 70 Star Wars characters.
Oh, wow.
Who will join us. They'll be around at intermission, so they love having people take pictures. Right. And I have something sort of choreographed for the very end of the concert, which will you have to come and see it at Wolf Trap Live.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the American Film Institute voted Star Wars as the greatest score of all time in one of their recent lists. So I think you're right, making that the climax of your
absolutely,
of your show.
And it sounds brand new.
Yeah,
it really does.
It's amazing. Before we go, we just named. It's like, how do you choose? But which one are you most excited for? Is there one that every time you play it on stage, you just blows you away?
Oh, well, I do love Star Wars. No, it is because all of them is like every one is my favorite one when I'm doing it.
Yeah.
For me, E.T. has been one of my, not just John Williams, it's one of my favorite pieces of music.
Yeah.
There's something, because I guess like a lot of people in our audience, when you see a movie that really grabs you, and it becomes personal. It becomes not just a movie. It becomes something that you take in your imagination and keep there. And keep in your heart. And so whenever I hear this music, I think of the movie, and I think of the times I've seen it and how much it's meant to me. And so that's kind of a personal favorite for those reasons.
Tears will probably be streaming. One that's not on here that's interesting, maybe you didn't include.
What?
Schindler's List.
Actually, that was originally on there.
Yeah.
And when we decided to add the tribute to James Horner, we had to take that one out because it was because you could go on all night, and so
Right.
that was the one swap. But yeah, Schindler actually was on the original program.
I got you, man. There's just so many. How do you?
Yeah,
even
we could
include
do a
them?
whole nother evening on Sunday.
And we haven't even mentioned the encore. So come out.
That's right.
To see what that one is. I promise, it's a very famous one.
Absolutely, it's gonna be a
And-
lot of fun.
Oh, thanks so much for taking the time to come in and chat about all these. You can hear the music as we're talking about them. It's just
Exactly.
it's embedded in all of our heads.
It is. Everyone will know every tune, so you can hum along
Absolutely.
on the way home.
Absolutely. Emile Decoux, everybody, who will be conducting the NSO at Wolf Trap with a special tribute to the legendary movie music of John Williams. Emile, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us on Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Remember to hit the subscribe button and give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time. I wanted to take a second to tell you about an app I really enjoy. Living in the DC area is great, and Podcast DC gathers all of the local shows that I like all in one local app. Health, sports, local news, politics, and so much more. Podcast DC is the new local app with hundreds of DC area podcasts to choose from. I can earn exciting rewards just for listening and share the podcasts I love instantly. Available in the App Store or in Google Play, listen local with Podcast DC.